I swore I'd never step foot in that house again. Not after what happened in the garage the night I turned 21. But 3 days ago, my mom called and said, "Your father's dying, and if you don't come now, you'll regret it forever." Regret. That word hit like a brick. I've been carrying regret for most of my life, and none of it had to do with missing Sunday dinners or ignoring voicemails. No, my regret has a name. Kyle. My younger brother. I'm 28 now, working IT support in Nashville, the kind of job where your biggest crisis is someone's Outlook crashing before a Zoom call. People there think I'm just quiet, maybe a little broody. What they don't know is that back in my hometown, I'm the guy who walked out after the kind of fight that tears a family in half. And nobody ever talks about why. When I drove up to the house, the siding looked even more tired than I remembered, like it was sagging under the weight of years of secrets. The porch light flickered but didn't stay lit. My chest tightened. Kyle opened the door before I could knock. He hadn't changed much. Same sharp jaw, same cocky grin that used to get him out of trouble. But his eyes, they carried something I didn't recognize. "Well, look who crawled back," he said, leaning against the doorframe like he owned the place. "Don't start," I muttered, stepping inside. The smell hit me immediately. Old wood, dust, and that faint sting of antiseptic. Mom appeared from the kitchen, thinner than I remembered, wringing her hands in a dish towel. She smiled, but her eyes were red. "He's upstairs, resting. Doctor says it could be any time." I nodded, throat tight, but it wasn't Dad I was thinking about. It was that line I overheard as I put my bag down. Kyle's voice, low and bitter, telling Mom, "He doesn't need to know. Not him. Not me." And in that moment, standing in the same hallway where I once swore I'd never return, I realized two things. First, there was a truth buried here, one they never intended me to dig up. Second, if I stayed long enough, I was going to find it. The first night back, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the old house set my nerves on edge, like the floorboards themselves remembered too much. The air in my old bedroom smelled of dust and faded cologne, the kind Dad used to wear when he came home from church on Sundays. My body lay still, but my mind kept replaying Kyle's words. He doesn't need to know. Not him. By morning, the smell of coffee drifted up the stairs. I went down and found Mom in her robe, pouring herself a cup like she hadn't slept either. The kitchen hadn't changed. The same floral curtains, the dent in the fridge door from when Kyle and I wrestled as kids. She smiled weakly. "Sleep okay?" "Like a rock," I lied, grabbing a mug. Kyle wandered in barefoot, scratching his chest, looking like he owned the place. He gave me a half smirk. "Didn't think you'd survive one night in this haunted mansion." I shot him a look. Funny. He just grinned, but Mom's face tightened. She hated when we went at each other even in small doses. We ate in silence until Kyle broke it. "So, you planning on staying? Or is this just a guilt tour pit stop?" I set my fork down a little harder than I meant to. "I came because Mom asked me. That's it." He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Right? Because you're such a dutiful son." "Enough," Mom snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. She never raised her voice, but this time she did. Both of us froze. That's when Dad's cough echoed from upstairs. Deep, ragged, like his lungs were folding in on themselves. Mom dropped her fork and went running. Kyle and I sat there in silence, the weight of the house pressing in. I finally muttered, "You think he'll make it?" Kyle shrugged, eyes dark. "Depends if he wants to. You know him." And I did. Dad was stubborn enough to outlive spite. Later that day, I walked to Main Street, partly to clear my head, partly to see if the town had changed. It hadn't. Same diner with the flickering neon sign, same liquor store with the crooked Bud Light poster, same groups of old men in camo hats sitting outside like watchdogs. Inside the diner, I ordered coffee and a slice of pie. The waitress, Marlene, looked at me twice before her eyes widened. "Well, I'll be damned. You're Tom Benson's boy, ain't you? The one who ran off." I forced a smile. "Yeah, that's me." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "People still talk about that night, you know? The fight." My stomach dropped. Do they? She gave me a long look, then straightened. Pies on the house. The bell above the door jingled as I left, and I swear half the diner's eyes followed me out. The whispers were still alive 7 years later. When I got back, Kyle was waiting on the porch, cigarette dangling from his lips. He blew smoke in my direction. People remember, he said. I froze. What are you talking about? He flicked ash onto the railing. Don't play dumb. You know what you did. And sooner or later, Mom's not going to be able to protect you from it. For a second, I wanted to grab him, shake him, demand he say it out loud. But instead, I just walked inside, heart pounding. That night, I lay awake again, the house breathing around me, the weight of his words pressing down. You know what you did. Except here's the thing, I don't. Or maybe I don't want to. The third day was when things started to unravel. I was sitting on the back porch, nursing a lukewarm beer, when Mom slipped outside. She looked smaller than I remembered, shoulders hunched like she was carrying someone else's sins. Your father wants to see you, she said softly. My chest tightened. I hadn't been alone with Dad since before I left. Last time, we'd screamed at each other until my throat burned and my fists shook. The garage door was still dented from where I'd punched it. Upstairs, his room smelled like bleach and stale air. Machines beeped softly in the background, and he looked more like a shadow of a man than the giant I'd grown up fearing. His face was pale, his jaw slack, but his eyes were sharp as ever. He rasped, Tom. I swallowed. Yeah, Dad, it's me. He motioned me closer with a shaky hand. When I leaned in, his breath was hot against my ear. It wasn't your fault. I froze. What wasn't? But he shut his eyes, as if the effort had drained the last ounce of strength from him. I backed away, heart racing. Those words hit me like a shovel to the gut. Not my fault. Which meant what exactly? I didn't get to ask. Kyle appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame, arms crossed. His smirk was gone, replaced by something colder. What did he say to you? I hesitated. Nothing. Just words. Kyle studied me, jaw tight, before finally muttering, You shouldn't have come back. Then he walked away. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I went digging through the garage, flashlight in hand. Dust motes floated in the beam, landing on the same shelves stacked with paint cans and rusty tools. The smell of oil clung to everything. I pulled open a drawer and found an old manila folder. Inside were newspaper clippings, yellowed and brittle. Headlines that made my stomach twist. Local teen hospitalized after party fight. No charges filed in altercation. Family declines comment. My hands shook as I read them. A boy's face stared back at me from one of the photos. His nose broken, eyes swollen shut. I remembered flashes. Shouting. Blood on my knuckles. Kyle screaming at me to leave. But the memory was blurred, like someone had taped over it in my brain. Behind me, the floor creaked. I spun around, flashlight beams slicing through the dark. Kyle stood in the doorway, cigarette glowing like a red eye in the shadows. You're still digging, he said flatly. I need answers, I snapped. What happened that night? Why do you and Mom act like I'm the villain when I don't even... He stepped forward, smoke curling between us. Because you don't remember. But I do. And if you keep poking around, you're gonna wish you stayed gone. His voice was low, steady, like a promise. And for the first time since I came back, I realized Kyle wasn't just hiding something. He was protecting it. Or protecting himself. 2 nights later, Dad's breathing grew shallow. Mom sat by his bed, clutching his hand like she could tether him to life if she just held on tight enough. The house was heavy with silence, broken only by the hiss of the oxygen machine. Kyle cornered me in the hallway. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw clenched. You're not gonna screw this up, he said, like it was an order. I stared at him. Screw what up? He shoved a finger into my chest. You're not gonna drag the past into this house. Not now. Not when he's about to go. I slapped his hand away. The past is already here, Kyle. Dad basically admitted it wasn't my fault. So whose fault was it? His face darkened. and for a second I thought he might swing at me. Instead, he whispered, "You really don't remember, do you?" I shook my head, the knot in my stomach twisting tighter. Kyle exhaled hard, then said it, flat and cold. "I'm the one who put that kid in the hospital. You just took the fall for me." The words landed like a blade between my ribs. I staggered back. "What the hell are you talking about?" He didn't flinch. "You were drunk, too. You threw a punch, yeah, but it was me who finished it." Broke his face. "He'd be dead if Dad hadn't dragged me off. But you," he smirked, bitter as poison. "You let everyone think it was you. You left town with the guilt and I stayed. Win-win." My throat closed. Why didn't anyone tell me?" "Because you were the perfect scapegoat," he said. "Hothead older brother, always looking for a fight. Mom begged me to keep quiet. Dad went along. It kept the family from falling apart. Couldn't breathe. My whole life. 7 years of shame, self-exile, sleepless nights. It was built on a lie." Behind us, a weak voice croaked, "Kyle!" We turned. Dad was awake, eyes burning through the haze. He struggled to lift his head. "Enough!" Kyle's jaw tightened. "Go back to sleep, Dad." But Dad shook his head, every word ragged. "I begged you to tell him. You let your brother carry your sin." His eyes flicked to me, full of sorrow. "I'm sorry, Tom." And then he was gone. Just like that. Mom wailed, collapsing on the bed. Kyle and I stood frozen, the truth hanging between us like smoke after a fire. I wanted to hit him. God, I wanted to tear him apart. But instead, I just whispered, "You stole my life." He didn't answer. He just lit another cigarette, like it was any other night. That was the last time I spoke to him. I left the next morning, before the funeral, before the condolences and casseroles. Drove straight out of town, windows down, air cold on my face. I thought the truth would set me free. Didn't. It just hollowed me out. Because here's the bitter part. I spent 7 years hating myself for something I didn't do. And now, even knowing the truth, I still can't shake the guilt. Dad's words keep echoing in my head. The last thing I'll ever hear from him. "It wasn't your fault." But I don't believe him. And I don't know if I ever will.